I'm Jimmy Bach, and this is History with Jimmy, along with my producer, Chandler Holmes. And this episode 28 is dedicated to Memorial Day, which is not this coming Monday, but the following Monday. And I encourage everyone to go out there and support their local areas that are having dedication services to people served in the military. And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today. Soldiers from World War I and also World War II. And so our service here in Shickshinny forms at 9 o'clock. It starts at 9:30. The parade goes from here and then goes all the way up to the Pine Hill Cemetery, which it's one of the longest running programs in the United States. So in our investigation and research that we do here when Chandler and I do these episodes, I found one was very interesting, and we're going to start out with World War I. And here's Memorial Day at Huntington Mills. And it says, a new flag presented, a committee in charge gave a fine program at the Methodist Episcopal Church, and it was in Huntington Mills. The Memorial Day services this place conducted by Civil War veterans, assisted by Sunday school, long remembered the pleasure of those attending and helped make it a success. The day was not very promising, which was detained many at home, but the church was well filled. So I'm assuming it had something to do with the weather. At 10 a.m., the community choir of singers from Huntington Mills, Town Hill, and Waterton, led by Reverend Mr. Riley, met with children at the church and headed by the post with the new flag that had been purchased, and then marched the flag staff near the entrance of the bridge where it was swung in the breeze with the Pledge of Allegiance from the children and prayers by Reverend Riley and singing of the flag by the choir, which all proceeded to Scott's Cemetery, where the ceremony of decorating the graves and heroes of the Civil War was conducted by the post. After singing America, they marched to the mound. Battle of the Hymn of the Republic was sung, and the brief address was delivered by Mr. Riley. The children then placed floral tributes around the base of the monument, after which all returned to the mills to partake of their lunches. Much disappointed was evinced by the absence of the bean soup, which was always served on this occasion by the drum and bugle corps. At 2:30, all assembled in the church for elaborate program for the occasion. Mrs. N. Kleintop and Mrs. Chapin, the choir and 40 voices were seated at the rostrum and sung the Star-Spangled Banner and old songs with spirit that would move the world along. Mr. George Huff and Mrs. N.H. Huff were soloists in the old war songs, the choir and the audience joining in the chorus, making the church ring. Wow, how about that? The flag song was sung by children and was well rendered. The flag drill was by the high school girls, gave much pleasure to the onlookers. Recitations by Ruth Richards, Master Orr, young Thomas, in miniature uniforms of our Army, were all well delivered and showed training. Mr. Riley delivered the address of the day from the text that they should be held in remembrance. It was well prepared, forceful address, and appropriate to the occasion, both to the veterans and to the boys and their friends who are now at the front and preparation to go. Living tribute was paid to young soldiers, Private Donald Britton of Canberra, who gave his life for his country and humanity, and at that hour taps were being sounded over his remains. Reverend Mr. Goss of Jonestown made a few remarks pertinent to the absorbing subject of the day. The chaplain of the post, Mr. Jameson, was called and responded in his usual entertaining manner. The new war song, Keep the Home Fires Burning was sung by Miss Mary Thomas, the choir, and audience singing with the refrain with much feelings. Mr. Goss pronounced the benediction. The great credit is due to Mrs. Kleintop and her assistants for the excellent program prepared, which showed an immense amount of time and labor for the love of her country. So you can see here we have a picture of the World War I soldiers that also came here for a big celebration after World War I. And this picture was taken right outside the FLT building there. So we have some letters. We actually have a whole notebook full of letters that soldiers wrote home to their mothers in World War I. And so I want to read one here in particular, and I'm going to say to you, if you'd like to see more, come to the FLT Museum, call me. You can see Shickshinny historicalsociety.org. My phone number is there, and we can set up an appointment for you to come to the museum. But this one is from a gentleman, and I read many letters that he wrote to his mother in World War I when he was serving overseas. And his name was Manning Dodson. And he said, "Dear Mother, do not be alarmed when I tell you that I have been in the hospital for 4 days. It is only an attack of my own trouble and influenza. Ordinary life would not be given much consideration, but in our camp we could not give away any medical real treatment, so they sent me down here to be sure that I was taken care of." So he went on to tell about his treatment and to tell his mother that he was okay, and he went on. But he wrote many letters, and there's a story about him, but I'm not going to tell it to you so that you would come and sit down. We have a place where Cheryl will set up a table and chairs. You can sit down and you can read all these letters. And so then the last thing I'm going to talk about is the picture that's up on top there. And that was donated to us up here by Margaret Kittle. And this is very rare item that she donated. It's about her uncle John Quick, who was injured in World War I in France. It tells about his obituary. But when she gave me this envelope, it had a seal on it, and outside it says, "From King George V." And when I opened it up, I was shocked. As a matter of fact, the Press Enterprise did a story on it. Allie Gallo was so impressed. She heard about it. She came down from Channel 16, and it was actually on their news for 2 days. And in there was a letter from King George V thanking the American soldiers for coming to England's aid in World War I. I had seen 2 of these online in museums, and I have one other individual who came here to tell me that they also had one of those letters. So obviously there were copies, but they're very, very important, and they're very rare, being as 2 others are in museums. So as we go on, now we're going to be moving on to World War II. And we have helmets that Chandler has loaned us, a lot of his World War II stuff. And we're going to be talking about the 89th Division. And we were giving this information. This came from, I believe, Herbert Haynes. And you'll see there is showing a map of where they went in World War II. We have the original book here, 1942 to 1945, and it tells the whole history of that division and where they went, and there it shows a map. And then we also have a diary that was written by him, I believe, telling about his experiences. We also have a book here, and it says, "In memory of our honored dead." And it shows a lot of people in this area that never made it home, that died in World War II. And so I encourage you, we actually have a couple of these books that are a little bit different, but it tells about that. But as we know, World War II stopped Hitler, and it could have been the takeover of the United States, because if the United States did not step in to stand up against Germany, Hitler, Mussolini, and of course Pearl Harbor with the Japanese, it would have been a different world today. So we need to stand up and remember our veterans, men and women. And of course we had two nurses, Nurse Watkins and Nurse Davenport, that we remember about them as well. And so I was able to pick out a couple other stories here that was printed up and given to us, and they were World War II scrapbook newspaper clippings by Marge German. So here's one, and I think that you might recognize this name. His son is on the school board, and he actually was here with his wife for a tour. And here it is. Marv LaValle is now resting at camp at the foot of snow-capped Alps in Germany. He says he's in good health, and this being his first rest period since the start of the European campaign. He has been through it, being with General George Patton, famous Third Army, as a teletype operator. He's the recipient of 5 bronze stars, 1 silver star, a presidential citation, a good conduct medal, and a first-class machine gunner and an expert rifleman. He entered the service on May 17, 1943. He arrived overseas March 11, 1944, and he is the son of Charles and Ruth LaValle of Shickshinny RD2, a graduate of Huntington Mills High School, class of 1942. His many friends say good luck and hope for his return. So if you have more things, maybe if you see Marv, he might be able to give you a little more information about his father. Another one was James Franklin, and he was overseas in 1943. He was stationed in both England and France. His duty was that of an aerial engineer. He returned to the United States on July 5th. He had been awarded the Air Medal, 4 clusters, Presidential Citation, ETO ribbon, and 7 battle stars and good conduct medal. He was employed at the ACNF at Berwick. So, but here's one that I thought was very, I couldn't believe when I read this. Here it is. Pittston and Shickshinny men rescued when shot down in the English Channel. June 10th, 1944. Saved by the British destroyer, which was threatened to ram when the rubber boat was mistaken for a Nazi vessel. Shickshinny crew chief and Pittston radio operator started to France in a glider towing twin-engine Dakota and came back on a British destroyer which tried to ram them in their rubber boat because they were mistaken for Germans. A dispatch from the 9th Air Force Troop Carrier Base in Britain revealed that night. The 2 men, Sergeant James P. Franklin, Jr., crew chief of Shickshinny, and Sergeant Samuel Latona, radio operator, 155 Main Street in Pittston. In command of the plane was Sergeant Seymour Rutberg of Worcester, Massachusetts, and was told of the experience of his crew after they left England to participate in the big invasion. Rutberg said a burst of flak caught their plane right underneath the chin, knocked out the engine, and riddled the gas tank. They made a forced landing on the channel about 10 miles off Cherbourg Peninsula and piled into the dinghy, which the crew chief, Jack Bringburge, Grove City, Ohio, had in the water by the time they reached the back floor. The plane stayed afloat about 20 minutes. The co-pilot was Eminal Gauding of Winter Park, Florida, and the radio operator was Harold Worth of Los Angeles. The waves were 20 to 25 feet high, and we were all sick for about an hour, Rutherford said. We radioed our position, set up flares, but nobody was watching or listening, I guess. And about 3 a.m., the Black Hulk of a warship was sighted. We were so sick and weak and cold, it took all of our strength to load the flare pistol and pull the trigger. When we did this, the ship started to ram us. The commander later told us he thought we were a German E-boat. We shot another flare and shot ahoy. They let down their ladders and took us aboard. 2 other crews first listed in the lost flight of the Glanders must have been rescued in the channel. How about that for a story? So as we end this episode, I would like everybody to please remember the men and women that have served this country, rescued in this particular instance, but many times that was not the case. And many of them died overseas, never to come back to have celebrate with their families, birthdays, Christmas, holidays. They were gone forever. But their story shall live on, and we will continue at the FLT Museum to do our part to make sure that men and women who serve this country do not be forgotten. Thank you for watching. This is Jimmy Bach, along with my producer Chandler Holmes. This is episode 28. I hope that you'll watch it and please pass it on to others. Thank you very much.